This is another episode of UFO Garage.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Joe, and this is where we talk about UFOs, aliens, and, all things weird.
Oh, that's right.
Man, okay. How you doing today, Ben?
Good, dude. How are you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing really well. I'm pretty excited today. We've got Michael Schratt with us.
Michael Schratt.
Yes, Michael. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good.
That's great, man. That's great. Hey, if you don't mind, I wanna kind of fangirl out a little bit. I just want to say, man, I'm so glad that we met you out in California. We got to see your talk. It was absolutely fascinating.
Thank you.
I had seen a few things of you before, and you've kind of slowly turned into one of my favorite researchers in this whole thing, honestly. So I'm super excited that you're able to make it on with us today, man.
Absolutely.
Great. So you sent us a really cool thing, your PDF of your book, Dark Files, and I read through it, and it was some of the stuff was what you also had in your talk in California, and me and Ben were sitting here and we were thinking, man, I wish we could get a hold of like some of those photos and like the stuff that he talked about. So I'm so glad you sent that to us and we were actually able to read through it, man. It's so great. It's super cool. Ben,
yeah. Yeah, man, dude. After I saw that presentation, I was super stoked. You never really get to see an artist's rendition unless it's like, really quick in a small 3D environment video kind of thing. But in this fashion, in the way that it's portrayed, it's like you really get to pay attention to a lot of the detail, which I'm like astounded by some of these illustrations and detail. First off, before we get too far, Michael, would you kind of just tell the people who you are and what you do just real quick?
Sure. I'm a private pilot, military aerospace historian. I also cover the UFO aspect as well. And just to kind of give a brief overview of where this information came from so that everybody's kind of on the same page here. Living in the Chicagoland area, I was within striking range of CUFOS, which is Center for UFO Studies. That was 2457 West Peterson Avenue, all in the downtown Chicago area. And really, they have probably the largest collection of private UFO files in the world, perhaps. Probably do. There's about 18 cabinetfuls of files, about 60,000 files total. Ooh. So right around 2009, 2010 timeframe, they gave me access to the collection. And what's weird is there was nobody else there. Mark Rodiger was the director, and they gave me absolute full access to the entire archive. The whole time I was there, not one other person even bothered to take advantage of the resource. That I don't know, is a mystery to me.
Wow. That blows my mind too.
These cases that were sent to J. Allen Hynek before he passed away and after he passed away, the files kept on coming in, and so like the thing would be to leave early in the morning, get there at 10. And then get right into the files and just start opening up the file cabinets. And you'd open up one of these drawers, and the manila folders would be packed so close to each other, you could not put a razor blade between each file. That's how packed these things were.
Wow.
So, 60,000 files. I actually went through all 60,000. So
Holy
you pull
cow.
out one, open it up, see if there was a drawing, an illustration, a diagram, and then there had to be like a flight path drawing to go with that, and then a 3-page report. When I had those are the ones I copied. The other ones were CE1 cases where it was just a light in the sky. I bypassed those. I only wanted ones that had a really good description and a drawing to go with it. And so rather than let all these cases fade away in a 40-year-old archive that'll never be seen, the goal was to make these cases come alive through the use of full color illustrations, and everything's referenced. And so that's the whole, background of the book.
Wow, that's great, man. It's funny you said that. You went into this facility and there was nobody in there. There's a place here in Austin.
Anomaly Archives.
Yeah, the Anomaly Archives. And it's just full of like MUFON stuff and all kinds of cases. And it was the same exact thing. Me and Ben went in there and there's just nobody in there. And it kind of blew my mind. Like, this is one of the most fascinating places in Austin that nobody knows about.
Yeah, seriously.
Isn't it so weird? Because you've got all these movies. You've got Star Wars, you've got Star Trek, you've got James Cameron films, and it's all science fiction. But then when you get to the real information, the actual documented, it's nothing but crickets.
Yes,
Nothing but crickets.
Absolutely. And people are always asking, like, especially like in the UFO realm of things, it's like, well, where's all the proof? Like, it's not like you can just go and find all the documents. And it's like, yes, you absolutely can. You just don't go and do it.
It's down on 4th Street. Like, you go right now.
Yeah.
But it's like taking the time to go and read stuff instead of quickly downloading it. Like, I'm guilty of this too, man. Like, Joe knows, I think all of our listeners know that I don't read, but like if you put a picture in front of me, I'm very entertained. And
that's the thing. You got to make these cases come alive. Just hearing about it and seeing a rough pencil sketch that's 40 years old, it's not going to be enough. The goal was to bring the reader and make it appear that you're actually there, that you're actually witnessing it in real time.
Yes, well, this what you sent us, man, I mean, it absolutely does that. It at the conference, it grabbed me immediately, and then when you sent it to us, man, I'm scrolling through, and even my wife was like, "Ooh, what is that? How interesting!" And I was like, "Yeah, babe, look, check this out." And we sat there and we read it together, and she was like, "This is really, really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, this guy knows his stuff for sure." So, yeah, man, it's absolutely wonderful. And I also noticed it was dedicated to a Mr. Jim Goodall, man.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely. The way this came about is when we were all at the conference, and I've been threatening to write this for years, but you got to get the inspiration to do it. That's half the battle.
Yeah.
So when Jim was there after my talk, he said, you should maybe write a book. And I said, oh, okay, that sounds like a good idea. But then when Paul Hynek was there, and then he said, well, you know what? If you write the book, I'll write the foreword.
Yes.
And when he said that, boom, it was on.
That's
we were
awesome.
Off to the races.
Yes, both amazing guys. I mean,
so did that happen nice. When we were all in San Francisco?
Yes, that's right.
That's so cool, man.
Man, that's awesome, man. This is super fresh still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And the good thing about it is, you'll notice that after every case is described, I included the references and the documentation so that you can verify it on your own. It's all referenced.
Yes. You made the book like so easy. It's so appealing and so easy when you go through it. I didn't realize that at first, but then as I started going through it, I was like, he's got a reference for every single one of these things. And that's what I love about you, man, is I've even heard your talks, and I think one of the first things that I saw you in, I was doing some secret space program research, and I came across you, and I was like, out of everything, this guy sounds the most legit, that whole realm of things can, if you get into the wrong part of it, can really leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Sure,
but man, then I saw your stuff and I was completely blown away, and I was so excited to see you out in California. But this is great, man. Do you wanna go through some of these?
Yep, let's do it. Let's roll
files?
on it.
Awesome.
Yep, let's do it.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited.
All right. So I think, why don't we start, we'll kind of go chronological, then I think we'll skip around a little bit. But
okay.
The one we should start out with is this so-called mystery airship wave of 1897.
Let's do
it.
It
actually started November 18th, 1896, a little bit earlier. But it's always been known, within ufology all over, it's always been known as the 1897 mystery airship wave. And basically, over Sacramento, what people reported seeing is kind of this long cigar-shaped craft. There were reports of wings on either side with a strange rudder, and then there was a gondola. But what's interesting, in like 95% of these reports, they're always at night, and they reported these beaming spotlights coming down on the city below. And so it was an absolute chaos below. There were people running through the streets. Covered wagons were being tipped over. Horses were bolting from side to side. And it was just absolute chaos because no one had seen anything like this before. And who has the technology to have these beaming spotlights coming down back in 1896? This is before the Wright brothers, December 17th, 1903 at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. So this was going on before the Wright brothers even flew. Now, here's what's interesting. If you read the reference works and all the newspaper clippings going from the West Coast to Ohio, I mean, there were literally hundreds of newspaper reports of this mystery airship wave, different configurations as well. But they reported generally, we talked about the light shining down. There were reports of anchors being lowered from these craft.
Whoa.
There were reports of big black dogs on the top deck of these ships. There were reports of well-dressed eccentric inventors that were on the top deck of these craft.
With monocles.
There were reports of laughter coming from these craft. And we have reports of these things landing, and then the people that came out of these craft, they were wearing smoke-colored glasses, and they requested water.
Wow.
The reference works, okay?
What?
So we got to think, does this sound like a alien technology, or does this sound a whole lot closer to home?
It definitely sounds close to home, that's for sure.
It sounds close to home, that's right. And then the thing is, a lot of these craft, it appears, started with a group called the Sonora Aero Club that was financed by a mysterious group known as NIMSA. And I want to give credit to the book called Origin, the 19th Century Emergence of the 20th Century Civilization by Mr. Bosley. Walter Bosley has done a very good job pinning this all together. He has done just a great job.
Wow. Man, this reminds me, I mean, we've got a very famous airship case right here in Texas, in Aurora, Texas.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. And, I'm looking at this image, and it kind of reminds me like...
steampunk.
Kind of a steampunk feel. Like, hey, you've ever seen Wild Wild West with Will Smith,
Yep.
Like that crazy inventor guy. I mean, it looks like something that he would have invented.
Exactly.
It's really cool. I love it with the bat wings.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
right.
just awesome.
Yep, that's exactly what they were reporting. All right, so we'll move on to the next one real quick. Now, this is August 13th, 1947. This is the famous Snake River Canyon case, where there were 3 eyewitnesses. There were the 2 sons were down kind of in the river, and then the father was up on a hill. He was kind of looking down. Now, all of a sudden, according to the witnesses, and this has been confirmed in the NICAP reports as well, what looks like Abraham Lincoln's top hat cut down to the final third. Okay, so you can get a sight picture here. Just take Abraham Lincoln's top hat, get out a butter knife, and chop the top 2/3 off, and you're left with the bottom 1/3. That thing was screaming through the canyon walls back in 1947. It was about 25 feet across. The broad rim was about 1 foot thick. And the whole thing was about 10 feet thick from top to bottom. They said that there was a pod on either side that had this exhaust, but not like exhaust on a jetliner. It didn't have a smoky contrail. It had this flame-type contrail, and he said that it looked like this thing was nuclear-powered back in 1947. Now, this is even before Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier. That was October 14th, 1947. So this predates that.
Oh, wow.
Who had the technology to do this 1947? It looks like they made a breakthrough. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Also, who's familiar with what exhaust looks like from a nuclear-powered engine? I mean, that should just be steam, right? Or if they're not using water, maybe it's a different substance. Yeah, who would even know to describe it like that?
It's a well-known case. It's also reported in Project Blue Book. They reported it as well. And as this thing flew by, the eyewitnesses said that it had a swishing sound as it went by. So it's not like there was this loud exhaust or jet engine. No, this is something different for propulsion was being used on this craft.
Cool.
It's a well-documented case. Okay, now I want to move on to the FDR case, which I think is another significant case. This is late 1958 Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and it's about 9 p.m. at night. They're on a training mission, and what they notice is there's a huge commotion below decks. Everyone is trying to race up the ladders. They're trying to get up to the flight deck. All this commotion. Eventually, about 25 eyewitnesses get onto the top deck, and what they see is this light that was approaching the FDR. Now, this is the first aircraft carrier to carry nuclear weapons on board. Now, that might be connection, we don't know for sure, but the FDR had UFO or USO encounters for a while. It wasn't the first time.
Right.
So,
unidentified submerged object.
You got it. And so what's interesting is, according to the Condon report, they never even covered USO cases. They missed 51% of this entire phenomenon. They missed out on all of this.
Wow.
They didn't even consider. It's a part of ufology that's really not even talked about. Anyway, getting back to the FDR, 9 p.m., this light is approaching the aircraft carrier. It gets closer and closer and closer, and eventually, according to Chester Krasinski, who was there, he's the primary eyewitness, this is not just a light. This is a approximately 200-foot long cigar-shaped craft that's parked itself maybe 60 feet above the flight deck, all in eyewitness to these naval personnel. So we've got a multi-eyewitness case, and what they described is a series of square-shaped cutout windows running along the length of this cigar-shaped craft, and they could see what looked like, quote-unquote, humanoid-looking beings walking in between the windows back and forth. And they could feel the heat coming off this craft on their faces. So it's no longer a CE-1. It's no longer a CE-2 because the CE-2 has physical effects. Right. We're talking about CE-3 now, because this thing had physical effects and they saw some type of a being, so it qualifies as a CE-3.
Wow.
All right. Now, one of these beings pressed itself up against the window and put his hand over his head like he was waving at the personnel below. And they were waving back to these beings.
Oh.
Yep. And then this thing turned a golden, yellowish orange color and departed at a high rate of speed. All back in 1958. Well-documented case.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. Hey, just a question, because I have so many questions about this particular one. How much time do we have with you tonight?
We can go for as long as you want.
Oh, shit. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, this
won't keep you forever, but
yeah,
we can do an hour and a half. That's
okay.
fine.
Okay,
Perfect.
Sweet. Yeah.
That works.
So this one, like, to you, so this brings up a question that me and Joe were kind of talking about before the show. Like, I know you don't like to speculate, but I do. But
Yeah.
Have you heard of the idea that these craft are kind of on a tourist mission, that they're from the future? I find it interesting that, like, yeah, you can have all these ideas of who's from the future, or maybe it's an alien race, but like, I think that the main theme that me and Joe were also talking about in your book is that some of these stuff, as we've talked about so far, is that it's apparent that some of this stuff could be described as man-made. So right. I'm thinking, like, yeah, okay, so even if it is from the future, it's still man-made, right?
Right.
And yeah, who would be more interested in human history than ourselves? You know, I just keep going back to that idea, and like this particular incident seems like a very historic. Like, hey, you guys want to go check out the Roosevelt?
It's like a kid's
FDR
field trip in the future, you know? Yeah. That's an interesting point for sure.
That's right. J. Allen Hynek made an interesting statement that I think applies here. He was asked, what is the bottom line? What do you think? And he came back and said, well, if UFOs were nothing more than extraterrestrial spacecraft, how boring that would be. Because this phenomenon is so much more involved and multi-layered and tiered than we realize. It's a multi-headed hydra, because you've got a number of different prongs going off here. You've got the man-made craft. You've got the quote-unquote ET craft. You've got the interdimensional craft. You've got quantum entanglement. You've got the USOs, and they're all blending in together, and that makes up the fabric of what we're looking at here.
Yes. Yeah, that's the anomaly, right? Like, it makes it even more intricate, that it can't just be one example or one answer to it all. So
and we've got the spiritual component. I don't know if we want to go down that road, but we have a spiritual component to this as well, and we've got the component of a pre-existing high-tech civilization that could be on this planet for thousands of years. They could have been here for long, and they might be using this craft as well. So now we're looking at 7 different configurations.
Right,
yeah.
Oh, there's so much to it.
I don't know. This specific one really shot out to me as a tourism vessel. Just because of the large windows and they're like waving. Like, I just see like a teenager like, hey, everyone on that ship is like, hey, don't interact with whoever you see. Just stand there, act like, and then there's some teenager like, waving.
Not listening to the teacher. Yes. Yeah,
that's right.
I love this.
And this was, they have a newsletter called the Broad Top Bulletin. So it was published back on December 1st, 1999, and also December 26, 2000. The gentleman was interviewed twice. He described the entire case. So those are the main references for that case.
So cool.
Wow.
So when you're reading through these cases, you're looking at not only description like drawings, but notes, the size of the windows, as you mentioned.
Whatever information I can pull out, I'll include it for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Man, I love it. Okay, cool. I didn't mean to stop you up. I know we're on a little pace there.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Now, this one has always been known as the Father Gill case. And this is June 27th, 1959, Papua New Guinea, very famous case. This is another one of these multi-witness cases. So it's around 6 p.m., Father Gill is kind of in his mission there, and then one of his assistants comes in running and says, you've got to come out and see what we're looking at immediately. What they eventually see, now there were 2 of these craft. One was a lot closer, so that's the one we're going to focus in. What he saw was a 35-foot diameter dish-shaped craft that looked like a 2-tiered wedding cake. So the bottom tier is 30 feet in diameter. The upper tier is about 20 feet in diameter, and he saw what looked like 4 human beings. They looked like men that were standing on the deck of this craft on top. It also had these tapering cones that might be landing gear legs. We don't know for sure, but they might be. So the 4 men on top, there were 2 that were closer toward the center, so they were somewhat obscured, but they looked like they were setting up some type of equipment.
Ooh.
Yep, and the other 2 guys were a little bit further forward. And so what Father Gill did is he actually waved his hand over his head, and these beings, they waved back.
Oh.
This is known as the waved back case. They actually waved back. So it's a CE3. It's a CE3 case right there. Now, what's interesting is there were 24 natives right near his vicinity. They saw it as well. So we've got 25 eyewitnesses that saw this. They try to debunk this case, and they try to make it out as a planet. No, the planets were not in the same orientation as what happened on that night. They always try to poo-poo these cases and try to debunk it. Now, here's what made it real for me, though. In 1974, Father Gill traveled to Evanston and met with J. Allen Hynek, and they had a dinner engagement. And Mr. Hynek's son Paul was there when this dinner engagement took place.
Oh wow!
And when I spoke to Paul, I brought up this case, and I went over the illustration. He said, Mike, I was there when Father Gill came over in the 70s and had dinner with us. He laid out the entire case, blow by blow. He just laid out the whole thing, and he said, after hearing him It's done. It's a real case.
Dang.
He was not seeking fame or fortune. He was just laying out the entire case. And when I heard that from Paul, it just made it that much more real.
Man.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Like I mean, all these guys are waving back. It's like they seem kind of friendly. And then not only that, but I mean, you're out there. New Guinea, it's like if you wanted to do something, why wouldn't you just do it out over the ocean where nobody could see you?
Right.
It's kind of strange that it would happen right over this little area with all of these people.
This went on for 2 months. This was the ending point of the sighting, but this went on for 2 months. So to say it was a planet that came up close within like 500 feet, no.
Yeah, definitely not.
Multiple times. Yeah. I could see like maybe there was a ritual going on and everybody was taking ayahuasca and everybody kind of had like this spiritual experience. But if it happened multiple times, and you could like everybody can corroborate the fact that there was 2 people closer to the middle and 2 people further away, like that's such an intricate detail that.
Did they ever describe like what they thought they were doing? I mean, with this beam, I mean, they were setting up some sort of equipment up there. Yep. I mean, I don't know.
No, it only says that it appears like they were setting up some type of equipment, and that might be associated with this light blue colored beam that came off at a 45-degree angle. It might be associated with that. We don't know for sure, but at the very least, it looks like the other 2 guys near the center seem to be setting up something,
Yeah.
Wow,
that's
super
awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I love how it just hits home for you because you talked to Paul and he was there when the eyewitness.
I know,
so cool.
I couldn't imagine just sitting at their kitchen table, like growing up. Like how cool is that?
It's never real until it happens to you. I wasn't there, but Paul was there when he was over with Father Gill. And the guy was just laying it out honestly. There wasn't any fame or fortune. He was very calm. He said, this is what happened. This is the sequence of events. And when you hear that from a person of his caliber, he had corrective lenses. They were fine. So it's a done deal. There are so much paperwork associated with that case. It's one of those ironclad cases, really.
Yeah, again, back to the sentiment of, well, there's no proof. Well, yeah, there is, dude. Look at the documents. How do we know anything's true, right? You look at the documents. Right. Well, why is it any different in this case?
Well, yeah. Plus, they had the other eyewitnesses separately draw what they saw, and that was all in correlation too. So we've got their sketches as well.
Wow. That's really cool. Oh wait, do you mean like the indigenous, not the local people?
Yes,
they
drew sketches too. Yes,
wow. That's so cool.
Yep.
I mean, if you think about it, for thousands of years, I mean, these people have been drawing sketches of stuff in the sky, all the time. You know, whether it be cave paintings or whether it be on these, little, paper tablets, whatever they used back then,
right. Charcoal on on
exactly.
limestone stuff.
They've been trying to tell us these stories for hundreds of years.
They've been trying to tell us, man.
This is great. That's great, man. I love that. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay, so next one I want to move on to is my favorite Project Blue Book case.
Awesome.
And this is the basically, personally, it's my favorite Blue Book case. Now, it is March 23rd, 1966, along the Texas-Oklahoma border, and it's 5:05 in the morning. Primary eyewitness is Eddie Laxon. Now, he was an electronic technician instructor at the time at Shepherd Air Force Base when this is all going down. So you can see the site picture here. He's going to work in the morning. It's 5:05 a.m., so the sun is just barely popping up, so it's still kind of dark yet. Just driving down the road, he's got his headlights on, and all of a sudden, right in front of his vehicle, blocking the road, is what looks like a fish on pogo landing gear legs. This is like the best way to describe it. Yeah. It looks like a bowling pin with the base of the bowling pin kind of like pointing toward the front of the road, and then it tapers back to the back of the bowling pin. That's the best way to describe this thing.
Yeah, right.
Now, we have his original sketch, which is a part of this report, and that goes to credit David Marler. He's the one who gave me the full 15-page report. He has the original sketch The entire Blue Book report is there. It's described in excruciating detail. So what he says is that this thing was about 75 feet in length. It was about 8 feet tall. And on the very front of this craft, it kind of had a bubble canopy, a bubble transparent canopy that he said that looked like it came from a B-26 World War II bomber. As we mentioned below, there were 4 pogo landing gear legs that were supporting this craft about 2 to 3 feet off the surface of the asphalt road. Going a little bit back toward the front, there were these spotlights that were pointing forward that were illuminating the entire area. The whole craft appeared to be illuminated from inside. Now, as we move further back, there was a porthole or a cutout air stair that was opened up, and he said that there was a military man who was wearing 2-piece green fatigues, military fatigues. He was shining a flashlight down near the lower portion of the craft. So he's in this whole story as well. And he could see that they were air stair doors, like on a Learjet.
Yeah.
When you have that door that opens up, that's what this looked like. Now, on the top of this craft, tapering back, was a spire or spine that terminated in about a 18-inch ball at the end of this thing. And that looked like the electrical trolley cars in San Francisco where you have that prong that sticks up that makes contact. That's what this thing looked like. That's exactly what this thing looked like.
That's so cool.
Going further back from the cutout entryway door, there was about a 3.5 diameter porthole window that was illuminated from inside that was divided into 4 equal pie segments. He also described that as well. Now, just after that window, there was the letters written in black ink or black lettering. TL4768 was written on the side of the craft.
In English.
In English, yes. TL4768 was written on the side of the craft on the starboard side. That's the right-hand side. Now, as we get to the very extreme of the craft, there was what looked like very tiny flight controls, way too small to be of any value or of any significance. I mean, just way too small. Now, the interesting thing on this case is when you look at his original sketch and you look at his dimensions, he said it was 75 feet long and 8 feet tall. Well, his 75-foot dimension is almost as long as his 8-foot dimension. That can't be possible. That 75-foot dimension is way out of scale.
Yeah, that door would be huge.
Yeah, the length of this thing is a whole lot longer than he shows it in his drawings. So I spent an entire day correcting all those errors, and that's what you see in this book. That is essentially the corrected configuration based on his own dimensions.
Yeah.
That's what this thing should actually look like. Now, here's where we get back to the story. When the gentleman who was wearing these green fatigues, he also said that he was wearing a baseball cap with the bill turned up.
And again, with the specifics, man, like it's so intricate.
That's right. And Eddie Laxon said that he was so close to this man who was shining this flashlight on the bottom of the craft. He said that later in the afternoon, if he saw him in Oklahoma downtown, he'd recognize him. That's how close he was to this guy. Now, when this military guy saw that he was being looked at by Eddie Laxon, he immediately ran up these stairs. He closed this door, and there was a noticeable thump when this thing closed. The next thing that happened is there was this high-pitched drilling noise, and then this thing rose off the ground, hovered horizontally for about 10 seconds, and then departed like a spark off a grinding wheel about 720 miles an hour, made no sonic boom.
Whoa.
Back to 1966.
A drilling noise. That's interesting.
And this is, when you start looking at these cases that we'll go through here, you start seeing these pattern recognitions pop up again and again and again. And this is one of them, gentlemen. This is one of them. A high-pitched drilling noise before these things take off for some reason. It's like they're spooling up something, or they're engaging a propulsion system or something.
Yeah.
But we keep hearing this high-pitched drilling noise, and then these things take off like a spark on a grinding wheel.
That's so cool. So this image right here, it reminds me of Daffy Duck on the Looney Tunes when he would dress up as Duck Rogers. It looks like his ship, like in the cartoons. It's almost like identical. I mean, his was like red and white, I think, but it's so crazy because they're almost identical, and it kind of made me think like, I wonder if whoever made this craft was a fan of Looney Tunes, or if Looney Tunes knew about this case and modeled it after this craft. Because I mean, they're almost identical. I mean, it's crazy.
You never know. And what's interesting is this is a multi-witness case because truck drivers, prior to and after this incident, they saw it too. So we've got the truck drivers on file as well.
Wow, that's so cool. So this antenna on the top, you were making the reference to, like a trolley car where it's using the electricity to move down the rails. I mean, what are the odds of maybe this thing actually maybe conducting energy out of the atmosphere and using that as a way to charge, I guess?
Yeah. Or it could be true. It could be a spark gap discharge mechanism, because I've got like 12 other cases of these spires coming out. You know that deep sea fish that has that prong that goes out in front of it with a little light? That's what this thing looks like.
Yeah,
anglerfish.
That's what this thing looks like.
Yeah, it does.
I've seen this in like 12 separate cases, but we have to consider the date here. March 23rd, 1966. This is before Apollo 11. On July 20th, 1969. Who's flying around here in America with something that has TL4768 3 years before Neil Armstrong landed on the moon? What's something going on here? We're missing something here.
It's like obviously better than anything we have, and this guy, it's such a... Right. I see why it's your favorite story, because it sounds so like... something out of a
mechanical. It sounds so mechanical.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like, well, that doesn't look like I would imagine an alien craft to look like.
Exactly.
Which I think is your point, right? Like that's
the point. And here's the other point. Eddie Laxton was close enough to get a good look at what this guy was wearing. It was a two-piece green fatigue, but up on his shoulder they had these chevrons like you see on a general, or these emblems. These chevrons were written on his shoulder on either side. He could see that too. So it was like a military, what level he was at, what rank he was at. Those chevrons were on his shoulder, what he was wearing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's such a I don't know, maybe alien similar human aliens will have some kind of, maybe there's an alternate dimension where they have the same exact hierarchy in military, and it's just, the chevron's kind of, that's just a universal language, right?
And I also find it interesting that the marking, the numbers, because I mean you see that on aircraft today.
Right. Yeah.
Every aircraft is marked with a number, and that's very similar.
Exactly. So somebody's building something, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we're building up to something, Michael.
Yeah. Here's what I think, though. Okay, now let's just say we had the technology in 1966 to do this, right?
Right.
That means they already were working on prototypes like 1955 time frame, and that's borne out by the newspaper clippings. So that checks out. So they already had this back in the mid 1950s. So they've already made a breakthrough, and this might have been an early prototype, a little 11 years later. Now, but what's weird though is this is before Apollo 11. So did they really need liquid rockets to get to the moon back in 1969? So that takes the whole liquid rocket, solid rocket, and shoots that out the door. That's all dinosaur technology.
Right.
So we can write that whole thing off, the entire space program.
Right.
Okay, so it
makes everything look seem so clumsy.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, are we being played here? Are we being had?
I think it has something. I think there's a deeper meaning. I mean, we could go all night about that, but I think it might come down to the economy, right? The petrodollar, right? That's why there's this secret. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too deep too soon.
Oh no, it's all connected. It's all connected. Now, January 28th, 1986. Do you gentlemen know what happened on that day?
January 28th, 1986. Well, it's not my birthday.
No, I don't know.
Okay, that was the day that Challenger exploded.
Oh yes.
shit.
Okay. Yeah.
So you've got the external tank, you've got liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen, and then you've got the two solid rocket boosters on either side of the orbiter. Those are solid rockets. And we lost 7 astronauts. And here's the tragedy that's not talked about this very much. Is we know for a fact, gentlemen, that when the external tank blew up because of the O-ring, allegedly, the external tank blew up and it disintegrated the orbiter. And then when the crew compartment exited the exhaust cloud of the explosion, we know because approximately 3 weeks later, when they found the crew compartment at the bottom of the ocean, when it was recovered, at the very least, 2 oxygen tanks on their backpacks were turned on, and they can be only turned on manually.
Whoa.
That means that either 2 crew members or all crew members were alive after the explosion.
Oh my gosh.
They made it through and this is confirmed. It's 100% solid. It's confirmed. They made it through the cloud. And, keep in mind, they're going at, like Mach 1.2 here, 72 seconds after launch. They're approaching max Q. And so they're still going up after the explosion because all the momentum. So they're riding this parabolic arc. They're completely conscious of the whole thing.
Bro,
wow.
They're riding the top of this arc all the way up. Now the power went out. We know that because the wiring harnesses were flailing in the wind at the aft bulkhead of the crew compartment. So the wiring harnesses actually helped to stabilize this thing in flight as they're going on the top of this parabolic arc. So the power's out. Probably the cockpit is out, but they had to turn on their internal oxygen tanks for oxygen. So we know that. Now, here's the thing. They reached the top of the arc. Now they're in 0G, and now they're looking through the cockpit window of the Challenger as the ocean is rushing up against them. They're aware of this whole thing going on. They know their fate is seconds away. And it all could be avoided. It all could be avoided because someone else had another space program. And we murdered 7 astronauts.
I cannot believe that. I did not know that.
Essentially. Now, they hit going about 170 miles an hour. It was equivalent to about 180 Gs. That's where they died right there. They did not die at the explosion. They died on impact.
Oh, my gosh.
And they were aware and conscious of the whole thing. They rode it all the way down to the ocean.
Damn.
You should do a live reading of that, just that, at your nearest coffee shop ASAP. Like,
yeah.
I still have chills. That's such a descriptive thing. Like, First off, that's the first I've heard of that. Also, like, it's such a historic thing. I've always, I grew up seeing those clips of, when I got interested in space as a young lad. Seeing the that was a big deal. That was
very big deal. Very big deal. Because if we know what we know, according to this case, and if Eddie Laxon is telling the truth, and if the truck drivers are telling the truth, then we are being had. We are being played.
Right.
We are being played. I mean, we don't want to go too deep, but we are being played, and we didn't need those astronauts to die. Yeah. I mean, I spoke to Krista McCullough's mother. I spoke to her, and I'm like, this could all have been avoided. They already had the technology.
Wow.
This is all window dressing. What you see is window dressing. Right. Liquid rockets, window dressing.
It's such a interesting perspective. I think that a lot of our listeners will respect is me and Joe could speculate all day. Like, dude, there's probably totally a space program. Like, why not? I mean, that's my thought process. I don't know. But when you get down to the granular, a specific scenario, and you really break it down based off of these two events, it really becomes kind of like a real, like, whoa moment. it becomes kind of a tragedy.
Yeah,
in
especially knowing that 20 years prior, literally, there was some Air Force guy working on a Duck Rogers spaceship.
He fucking lost his contact, was looking around on the ground, you know?
Like, that's insane. That's incredible.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It's the implications of what this means. I mean, if it's true, and it looks like it is, the implications are earth-shattering.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we even look at like modern day space flight, you know, and it's like the new cool thing is that Elon Musk can land a rocket booster back, you know, on Earth on a platform in the middle of the ocean, and it's like that is still ancient compared to what happened in 1966.
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from SpaceX or Elon Musk because I think he's done a good job.
Oh, absolutely,
why is he still using liquid rockets?
I know.
The Nazis were using liquid rockets in 1943, and you're telling me now we're still using liquid rockets now? Something going on here.
I agree completely.
Yeah,
I agree completely. Even like your just common aircraft. I mean, what are you going like 500-700 miles an hour? I think like I'm not sure what the conventional aircraft speed is
like
for
350.
like a Southwest Airlines or whatever. But I mean,
500.
it's like can we not upgrade this a little bit? You know?
Yeah, sure. Like if you want to fly from LAX to London, okay, it's about 13-hour flight. And you're on a 747 and you're going 500 miles an hour. Do you gentlemen know that the 747, it entered operational service in 1969? That's 51 years ago. We're not flying any faster now than we were in 1969. 51 years later, we're not flying any faster now than we were. What's wrong with that picture?
That's insane. I mean, and it's like you have aircraft that can go faster than that. I mean, like I don't know. Like, is it an expense thing? Is it a red tape thing? Is it this actually belongs to the military thing? Or, you know, I don't know. Like, what's the way around that?
All of the above.
All of the above. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the issue. Man.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to see it, right? We're not going to see it.
Right. Still flying the same speed as 1969.
That's a good point.
That's insane.
So I mean, still on this story, I'm just thinking like, that trolley, the spire at the top. I don't want to give away, you know, because I have seen, you know, me and Joe both have seen your presentation, and I don't know how much you want to give away on this podcast, but I just love the ending. I'm just like, I'm thinking about it at the same time, and I don't want to like talk about it, but
Sure.
But your final conclusion, well, there's a few, but I would say like maybe people would pay attention to the man-made things that you're speaking of. I think that's what the little puzzle pieces. There's little drops here and there connect the dots.
Right.
I don't know how cryptic you want to be.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to cover. I'm leaving all options on the table.
Yeah.
But we don't want to jump on any bandwagon unless we've really looked at it. But just going by the eyewitness reports, you know, stay with the reports. What is he reporting? What is Eddie Laxon reporting? Well, He talked about a high-pitched drilling noise, and when I got the report from David Marler, who's got a really good collection of material, they even have this handwritten, like high-pitched drilling noise, handwritten in number 2 pencil on the report. Even they know.
Wow.
They conclude that it was a high-pitched. So something, we're missing something. We're not being told something. And I just think it's a tragedy that we lost 7 astronauts when it could have all been avoided.
Yeah,
I agree. God, I agree. Now that I know that, that's incredibly sad.
What did Neil Armstrong know? Was he told? Was he briefed?
Yeah.
You want to risk your life on a liquid rocket, 7,700,000 pounds on a Saturn V booster? You're gonna sit on top of that thing when we got something else?
Right.
I don't know, man.
You sometimes you look at the old videos of Lance Armstrong and how like calm, cool, collected he is. You wonder like maybe somebody slipped him some knowledge before he was like maybe he was told, hey, you know what, like we've got some really dope technology. it could be easier, but you'll get more famous this way. And he's like, well, fuck. I mean, I guess.
I don't know. I respect Neil Armstrong. It's too bad he's passed, but I always wanted to meet him. I respect him. He's an honest guy. And you'll notice he's a very private individual.
Yeah.
He doesn't give interviews. He's very calm. He's quiet. I mean, this is the guy that rode that simulator, and then when it went out of control, he bailed out, and it was like, it's just part of the job. I mean, he was literally a second away from dying. But that's the kind of mentality of him. I respect him tremendously, but I always wanted to know, was he briefed? Did he know? Did he know we have these other things? It's debatable whether he did or not.
Yeah. I mean, maybe when he came back, they were like, oh, by the way, Neil, good job. But also, let me show you this thing we have.
Yeah.
He's like, you son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. Thermal tiles, right? We lost another group of astronauts with thermal tiles coming off the bottom of the orbiter. All of that stuff, the liquid rockets, the heat-resistant thermal tiles on the shuttle. What are we doing with all this? Where are we going with all this dinosaur technology?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about the thermal tiles, I can't remember what case it was, but I recall you talking about a group of people. They had a craft of some sort, and they tried to get through it with like a blowtorch, and it heat up to the touch, but then whenever you took the torch away, there was no damage whatsoever to the craft.
Yeah, that's a crash retrieval story we can talk about too. We can get in that one too. But yep, there's a historical precedence for that one as well. All right,
wow,
so
I love that.
We've covered the 66 thing, and just to drive the point home, what did our Apollo astronauts know? Were they briefed? Were they even told about this? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Oh man. Yeah.
I love that. Well, let's go to the next.
I could go into a whole different topic about whether or not they saw stuff on the moon, but maybe that's for next time you come on our show.
What we're going to do in this, go around, and maybe we'll do another one, but we will cover the historical cases in this interview.
Awesome.
Debatable how far we can go on the other subject matter, and we'll keep that under wraps, but we're going to definitely cover the historical cases in this interview. All right, so next one I want to cover is the February 3rd, 1983 case. This is further down in the book. And this was reported in the APRO Bulletin. So that's the reference here, Volume 32, Number 2, 1984. That's the reference for this. And the primary eyewitness was Pat Norris. Now, she was driving back from a dinner engagement, going back to her home in Mobile, Alabama. She's driving down on Highway 90, and she hears this booming noise, this loud boom. The car actually starts shaking. So she pulls off to the side of the road. She kind of like slams on the brakes. She gets out of the car. She looks under her vehicle, thinking that something might have happened with the transmission. That seemed to be okay. So she gets back in the car, drives another half mile forward, and on the right-hand side, there's this opening, this kind of a wooded opening area that's completely illuminated. So she's thinking, what could this be? Why is this whole area lit up? What she ends up seeing, gentlemen, is this strange, it's almost impossible to describe it without looking at the illustration. She sees this black 270-foot long craft that tapers near the back end. It kind of has a bulbous center that tapers back almost like a wedding cake that gets smaller as it gets to the rear. Now, on the upper part of this ball, she said it had a transparent section, and there were these 5'10" white, tight-fitting flight humanoid beings that were kind of looking at her below, but were actually oblivious to the entire scene. So you got this transparent section. They looked human, but their heads were a little bit bigger, and they were hairless, according to the primary eyewitness. Whoa. Now, below that section, there was another transparent window section. Below that section, there was a series of circular-shaped window transparent cutouts. And then she said that there was these boxes that were 6 feet by 6 feet that had these tubes coming out that looked like guns or cannons. She wasn't sure. They looked like some type of guns to her. Now, below that portion, she said that there was a door that was closing from right to left. And on the bottom of this door, there was an asphalt road that looked like something you would drive down, and it just looked like an asphalt road. And on the left side of this asphalt road, there was a wall that was comprised of tubes, pipes, and cylinders on the side of this wall.
Tubes, pipes, and cylinders,
Tubes, pipes,
people.
and cylinders. And I've heard this go again and again and again.
Yeah.
This is another one of these pattern recognition things that turns up again and again. So you've
Right.
got tubes, pipes, and cylinders. A lot of these eyewitnesses said that when you see these things, it looks like the interior of a Midas muffler shop.
Wow.
That's what these things look like. So it turned up in the Hudson Valley Boomerang Wave, 1982, 1989. It turned up on the Belgium Triangle case, that's 89-90. It also turned up on the Southern Illinois Triangle case, January 5th, 2000. The same tubes, pipes, and cylinders. A lot of these eyewitnesses said that these things look like stacked Legos. Okay, that's what these things look like. Now, just picture, this thing is 276 feet in length. It's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she says that the whole thing had these illuminated porthole circular windows around the entire craft. She was like no more than 10 feet below this craft as it's hovering above her.
Wow.
She said that she could look through these porthole windows all the way into the inside and outside the other side. She could look all the way through. And when the reporters got to her later, and this is all in the APRA report, they asked her, what did it look on the inside? Because they were curious.
Yeah.
And she said, if you could picture a dry dock somewhere on the East Coast where they make battleships, that's what it looked like.
Whoa.
It had bulkheads, it had stringers, it had beams going through either side, crisscross beams. That's what this thing looked like.
Man.
It
Like
looked
a-
like a shipyard on the inside of this thing.
Like they were building
Like
something.
they're building something. That's right. It also had rivets that were equally spaced all around this craft, just like you would see on a bridge.
Uh-huh.
Or like anytime I talk to people and I ask them, they ask me, what do these things look like? All you got to do is go to New York City and go over the George Washington Bridge, and you'll know exactly what these things look like on the
Yes.
inside. It's got bridge rivets. It's got cross beams. It's got girders. If you've ever walked across the Golden Gate Bridge, and you go to the two big pylons here, the two big towers, you'll see these big fat rivets sticking. That's what this thing looked like.
The biggest
That's-
bolts you've ever seen.
Yep. Now, she also said that on the bottom of this craft, there were two gondolas that were circular and transparent, and it had the same 5'10" humanoid-looking beings wearing the same white fitting flight suits. So, and they were like oblivious to her as this is all going down. Now, on the top of these gondolas, which represents the bottom of the craft itself, there were multiple 24-inch by 24-inch highly polished mirror reflective mirrors on the bottom of this thing that were oriented in a cross configuration. So essentially that's what this case was comprised of. It also had red and green lights on it, and it slowly faded away and it went out of her view. So this is back on February 3rd, 1983.
1980.
That is so interesting. I mean, if you think about it, if you wanted to build something, maybe a little crazy, maybe a little secretive, this thing is pretty massive. I'm sure you could build it at a base right here on Earth,
Yeah.
but why not build something up in the air if you have the capability to do it? It seems like it'd be easier to hide that way.
I can't help but think that these people are just partying and they're just having having the best time. Like it's in the 80s, right? They're listening to
Depeche Mode and The Cure and having a good flock of
I was gonna say
seagulls.
Bon Jovi, but that's not right.
Yeah, man.
But like, it seems to me that it seems so. And again, this is like your projection on me from your presentation and through this work is that it seems pretty human. I mean, you mentioned rivets, you mentioned people waving, you mentioned people observing. I mean, when I say people, I mean it's objective, or subjective. It could be a different human on a different planet, right? Or it could be us from the future. It could. I'm just saying people. It could be an alien with a huge head or tentacles. Like I'm just people, right?
Right.
But I can't help but think that these people are just having fun.
They might be.
Well, that could be. I mean, that could be. We talked about some of the different scenarios. We could be looking at quantum entanglement.
Yes.
So there are cases in Oaxaca, Mexico. This is back in 1858, long before the Wright brothers, where they had these airships that looked like steel eagles that had plates, and they were beaming down spotlights to Oaxaca, Mexico, back in 1858. That town, for some reason, is a hotbed for UFO activity for well over 100 years, no doubt.
Yeah.
What's your have you heard about the? You probably have, but like the geolocation of quartz crystals having something to do with hotbeds and portals.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yep. Could be.
I'm just kind of connecting dots here, but like if we're talking about that trolley type apparatus that we've seen in a couple of craft, maybe that has something to do with some type of antenna that's piggybacking on the amplification of some type of magnetic electricity that's amplified by the quartz crystal. How many more words can I say?
We could even take it back to Graham Hancock. If Graham Hancock's theory is correct, which I don't know, I tend to believe the guy. He's very well researched.
He's great.
He talks about being a species of amnesia. We are a species of amnesia.
Yes.
This is not the first time we've climbed up the technological ladder of evolution, and there could have been someone here prior to us that had this technology that's still here now, and they may be living underground, living in the seas, USOs, who knows, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So they could be employing this technology. That could be a portion of what we're seeing as well.
Right. I have a question for you. I asked Joe this, but Michael, I wanted to ask you, have you ever heard of the Sargasso Sea?
No, I have not.
Okay, so I just recently learned about this, but the Sargasso Sea is a location in the Atlantic Ocean between North America and Africa. It's kind of like a triangulated position between North America, Africa, and Europe. And it's basically where the Gulf current and the Atlantic current, they kind of make this swirl in the middle of that geolocation spot, right? Like kind of where, not exactly where the Bermuda Triangle is, but it's a lot bigger. But this, the reason why they call it a sea is because the borders are these currents. So it makes this big oblong shaped ocean, which, well, it's a sea, but it's called the Sargasso Sea, and it's named after this seaweed. Thank you. That kind of forms into these huge patties, right? And a lot of these aquatic creatures, like including eels and all kinds of small little critters, kind of live in this specific spot. But no one's ever heard of this place. So like the ocean's so huge that we've never even heard of this spot.
It's been said that we spent more time on the surface of the moon than we have at the bottom of our oceans.
Yeah, I believe
we don't
that.
even know what's going on down there.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So who's to say? I mean, that my point on this is, who's to say there isn't some kind of landmass that, look, like we haven't been able to reach or legally haven't been able to reach, and there's something out there that, hey, these people have been here forever and they just don't want to mess with us. It's kind of a
right. Yeah.
It's like a Wakanda kind of thing, right?
It's not like Google Maps is gonna tell you it's there. You know.
Nope.
Yeah. Man, I love that one. That's great.
Yeah, that's super cool. That ship.
All right, so I guess we can move on to the next one here. Now, the reference for this is Burton Daily Mail, March 3rd, 1995. That's where I got this from. This actually took place in 1994. They didn't give an exact date of when this was, but we know it was in 1994. And this is and it's hard to pronounce this, Uttoxeter, England. Gentleman in the morning is driving his motorbike. He's commuting to work. It's pretty early in the morning, and his motorbike stalls out. He's really not sure what's going on. Next thing he knows, he is bathed in white light. So he looks up above him, and he sees this square with all these lights on the bottom of this square, and in between these lights, there were tubes, pipes, and cylinders in between these lights.
Huh.
just like on the other 4 craft.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this craft moves off to the side, and it dawns on him what he was looking at was not just a square, but the base of a pyramid. This was a flying pyramid that had just moved off from his position. And he got a real good look of it. We have the original newspaper clipping. It looked just like a pyramid, but it had lights on the bottom and tubes, pipes, and cylinders at the base of the craft itself. Now, at this point, his motorcycle, it's a done deal. It's just totally dead. So he ends up, according to the report, he ends up walking his bike 3 miles back to his house. And when UFO's researchers got to him 2 weeks later, he described the entire case, and one of these researchers went into his pocket and pulled out one of those chrome metal Zippo lighters. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It was one of these chrome metal lighters. So, because he was going to light a cigarette, the second he brought this lighter out of his pant pocket, it leapt out of his hand and went right to the gas tank. The entire thing was magnetized. It had magnetized his entire motorbike.
Wow!
Whoa.
Holy cow, man!
So it's a CE2. It's a CE2.
Yeah.
Physical
effects.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow,
that's cool.
That's awesome.
How do you magnetize? How does that work? No, that's for another time. We'll figure it out later.
Science is tight.
It's got some kind of powerful energy, right? Man, I love that it was a pyramid. It goes
a pyramid. Yes.
It goes back to one of my favorite alien movies, Stargate.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's cool too because it's not only a pyramid, but there's like little squares that make up this pyramid.
Yep.
Just like the pyramids we have here.
That was in the original sketch. So what you're looking at is a faithful representation of the newspaper clipping.
Wow.
Wow.
So there's and
in 1994,
1994. That kind of leads into the next one. So, Burton Daily Mail, February 17th, 1995. This one took place in 1994. Now, similar scenario. This gentleman, he's going to work. He's kind of in an SUV vehicle, and it's early in the morning, and he sees this craft approaching his vehicle. It was kind of shadowing him, but this time, instead of a pyramid, it looked kind of like a horseshoe.
Yeah.
With a notch cut out, so it's an elliptical shaped craft with a notch cut out of the back. There were 2 beaming spotlights coming out of the front surface, and then it had tubes, pipes, and cylinders, almost like an electrical schematic on the bottom of the craft. And then as he was coming around a bend where there was a bridge, this thing slowly departed from his view. But we've got his case on file as well.
tubes, pipes, and cylinders.
Tubes, pipes, and cylinders. So now we're looking at 12 cases of these tubes, pipes, and cylinders.
Wow, that's so cool.
And also, like, the 2 headlights. That's interesting.
Yeah.
The 2 headlights, right?
Like, who would think of that? I don't know. Maybe that's a dumb question, but...
We have a listener. His name is Sonny, and he came on the show. We do this little listener story corner where if people have, had interesting sightings or whatever, they can come on and talk about it if they want to. Well, this guy, he was in, I believe it's Fresno, California, and he was saying as he was driving home one day, he saw what he thought might have been like a drone or something over the neighborhood. But as he drove closer into the neighborhood, he realized that this thing was massive. So he gets to his house, and he said it was moving so slow over his neighborhood, and it looked like a giant black boomerang, and it had kind of like a bat tail on the back of it, and he thought it was a B-2 at first. When he first got there, he was like, wow, I've never seen this before. But then as he got closer, it flew directly over his neighborhood. And he thought it was because he didn't hear any noise. He was like, this thing is massive. I thought it was crashing, into my neighborhood. And I thought to myself, this could take out, 3 blocks easy if it were to crash. He said it was over, a football field in length, but he didn't hear anything. But it was going really slow over his neighborhood. And he said, I looked at it for about 15 seconds. As it went over my head, I could see the back of it. And it looked like this, like sheet metal on the back, and it looked like exhaust dump or something off the back of it.
That's very interesting. Yes.
Yeah, and as he said, I believe it went west to east is the direction it was moving, and he said as it went over the neighborhood, it was really slow, but then as it left the neighborhood, within 3 seconds, it was out of sight, and he couldn't see it. Very interesting. And after listening to you and all these cases, man, it's really kind of filling in some puzzle pieces for me on like, okay, we have these little exhaust vents.
Yeah.
We have these little rivets with, metal on the back that he was able to make out. He said, it was nighttime, but I could tell this thing was jet black.
Right.
And, it looked like somebody had made that.
No sonic boom, right?
No sonic boom.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is most of the eyewitnesses, when they report these things and they're flying overhead, they can hear a faint electrical humming noise like a transformer or a sewing machine.
Yeah.
That's what these things sound like.
I'd be interested in is the age of each people because experiencers because there's like this thing. There was a cell phone ringtone that we all downloaded in high school. Did you ever do that?
Yeah.
It was like this high frequency that like older people couldn't hear, right?
Right. But younger people could hear the frequency.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like if there's any correlation there. Like maybe it has to do with age or maybe it's something specific.
Yeah, because people say different experiences. Like one person is like, oh my gosh, that noise is killing me.
Yeah.
And then the other person doesn't hear anything.
You and I have experienced that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of goes back to the personality profile when you talk about this phenomenon. There are some people that are interested in this, and then some people, according to their personality profile, they could care less. That's the way this thing rolls,
Oh, yeah.
You can't force this stuff on anybody. Mm-hmm. You either have an interest in it or you don't. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
That kind of rolls into, we kind of touched on a little bit of the spirituality aspect that you brought up earlier, right?
Yes.
I feel like that goes hand in hand.
Yep, I agree. And that's something. What are your thoughts on the spiritual component of this phenomenon?
Well,
when we started this podcast,
I think, when we started this podcast, we were kind of like, oh, the spirituality aspect is kind of woo-woo, right? But, you look throughout history and people have always had this spiritual component to them all throughout history. And certain people, I guess say that they can, access or call or have experiences. I don't know if that's an internal thing, if it's in their mind, or if this spiritual connection really does, maybe the spiritual connection is some form of like biological technology that we don't understand yet. And that's kind of my thoughts on it, because whether you're a monk and you just meditate on the top of a mountain for a year straight, or you go to church and you pray for 45 minutes to an hour, there's some sort of there's something fascinating about a group of people focusing their energy on something, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
And maybe there is an effect that happens. Maybe it sets off a beacon of some sort. Maybe there's some sort of energy that happens that we can't see or hear or feel. Maybe it's something invisible. We just haven't figured it out yet. I think one of the coolest quotes is, magic is just technology we haven't figured out yet, right?
Right. Some of the conclusions reached by Jacques Vallée and Norio Hayakawa, I think, play a role in this.
Yeah.
I really do, because Norio talks about how UFOs, they've been seen for hundreds of years, right? They act like tricksters. They can come and go as they please. They can materialize and dematerialize as they please. They can go in and out of oceans and rivers and lakes and waters as they please. They've been seen flying into the side of mountains with no impact. So we're not talking about a physical craft here in some cases. That could be the spiritual component that I think Norio is alluding to.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, the spiritual thing, like what does that mean, right? Is it strictly a human construct? I think what we're trying to figure out is it's a word that we haven't come up with yet. Spirituality is like the closest thing we can get to agree on. Like, it's just something that we can feel and we don't fully understand, and it's kind of like a compass to where we know what we believe and we're curious about it, and some people don't have that compass. And I think it all comes down to that gravitational or magnetic field or force that pulls it is intent based off of curiosity or innate curiosity. I think most people are born with a certain curiosity when they're young, and I think it's a taught thing to stop, like, don't question. Like, there's no, just everything's figured out, learn your times tables, dude, whatever. And I think that resonates less with, I think, creative types like you, Michael, and you, Joe, and me, and a lot of our listener, probably you listening to us right now. The reason why you're listening to it is because you have a curious mind.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it all connects.
That's right. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. This is December 26, 1972. And when I first saw this drawing and sketch in the file at QFOS, I knew I wanted to follow up on it. Because it had been buried there for like 40 years. And to my knowledge, it had never seen the light of day.
Wow.
If we didn't follow up on it, it'd still be sitting there right now. We'd know nothing about it. It never went anywhere. So it's 8 p.m. We've got the actual eyewitness case on file, his handwritten notes. He did a beautiful drawing of this thing, and he had a 3-page write-up about it too, so you can bank on it. It's a real deal. This is Maracaibo, Venezuela, December 26, 1972, 8 p.m. So it's the father, the wife, and the daughter. They're on the top of it's about a 13th floor apartment complex. They're on the top floor. They're looking at an airliner that comes like on a nightly basis at the right time. They thought it was a Convair airliner, and what they ended up seeing was this orangish glow approaching them. He thought the engine nacelle was on fire. That was his original thought.
Yeah.
Some type of engine fire or something. But as this thing got closer, and he got within 150 feet of it, it passed them within 150 feet. So this is a very close sighting here. This was no airliner. It was following its original flight path, and then it made a 45-degree bank up, then kind of like went level again to avoid some buildings that were in the vicinity. So it had to make this tip-up maneuver, and then it went back to its original flight path. Now, as this thing flew by, he got such a close view. He said that it was kind of elliptical shape in its configuration, and it had exhaust ports that looked like cast iron exhaust ports that were on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and all throughout the back of this thing, that wrapped around the entire right, back, and left portion of this thing. And out of these cast iron exhaust ports were these purple-colored lasagna noodle flames coming out of these exhaust ports. It's the way it's described. But these didn't look like flames at a campfire. These looked like electrical discharge flames.
Yeah.
That's what made it different. And then he said that there were these two half-hemispherical opposing globes. It looks like a globe that was cut in half. So you've got these two halves, and then running between these two halves was a continuous blue electrical spark going between these things as this whole thing is flying by. And the smoke that was coming off of these spark gap mechanism, the smoke was following the craft. It did not dissipate near the end of this thing. Ooh. It was just following as the craft was going by. Now, this thing terminated its visual sighting over the nearby airport, and then about 2 minutes later, another craft identical to this one passed them as well.
Wow.
And he told his daughter to go run next door to go get some binoculars. She ran back, and he could see all the details through binoculars 150 feet away. He got a real good close sight of this thing.
Wow.
That's so cool.
I love
so
that.
he brought a friend with him.
Just strange configuration.
It absolutely is, man. It's like if you're an alien, it'd be strange in my mind, I guess. I mean, I don't know anything about aliens specifically. I mean, I'm into it, but it would seem strange that you would just have this smoky aircraft flying through the air, with a bunch of smoke off of it. I mean,
That's right.
Man-made, I mean, that sounds possible. But I mean, then also, I guess, if it is from somewhere else, I mean, who's to say that whatever they're using wouldn't interact maybe with our atmosphere completely different than the way it reacts with their own atmosphere,
Right, that's right. Possible. All bets are off.
Yep.
Just going by the eyewitness reports,
Absolutely.
what they're describing, if you put all these pieces together and look at the understructure of these craft, look at when these craft are sighted, look at the electrical humming, we can start to piece this thing together. Now, it's been said that what we're looking at here is a 400-piece puzzle, but we only have 200 of the pieces. And we're trying to put these pieces in place. I think we have less than 200. I think we're more like 75, really.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I have 75 now that I've seen all of
I've
it.
got 75 now. We might have the borders put in place and some of the pieces that make up the borders, we've got that. But what do we really know about this phenomenon since 1967? How much further along in knowledge are we now than we were on June 24th, 1947, Kenneth Arnold, if you believe that case?
Right.
Are we further? Yeah, we're further along, but we're not where we need to be, not even close.
Yeah. And I mean, just looking at this image, in 1972, you've got these purple electric noodles.
Lasagna.
As flames or whatever. I mean, that's
this is still Apollo timeframe. 72 was still a part of the Apollo mission, so it's still part of the Apollo space program.
Wow, man,
I
can't get over that.
Yeah, that's such a very specific thing. I keep saying that word, but it's like the visual description of lasagna and a plasma material. Like there's nothing in comic books or movies that I know of that you could derive something from that seems like a very original
that's right. It's
observation.
By design. It's by design.
Yeah.
Yep. By design. Okay, I think we got time for one more here. Okay, now this is a good case. I really love this case. This is I think we can bank on this one too.
Awesome.
Bill Pecha. He was 39 years old, and this is Northern California at a place called Calusa, California. It was September 10th, 1976. All right, here's the breakdown of the story. He is watching TV. It's 11:30 p.m. at night. His wife and his 2 children are asleep. All of a sudden, gentlemen, the air conditioning conks out, and the TV conks out. So he's thinking, what's going on here? He's still in his boxer briefs. I'm not going to go there, but that's that's part of the story. We got to see his story.
Real comfortable.
Yeah. So he's walking outside. So he goes to the back of the house where the electrical box is. So he's thinking maybe one of the circuit breakers blew. So he opens up the box. Everything seems to be okay there. So that wasn't the case. The next thing he notices is the hair on his head not only stands up but is crackling. And the hair on his chest and the hair on his forearms is standing up and crackling. He looks up and he's looking at the bottom, I kid you not, of a 150-foot diameter dish-shaped craft.
Whoa.
That's how big this thing is. Right above his head and his, right where his garage is here. He's directly below this thing. Now, he could get a good look of it, and it's in the description. The top portion of this craft looked like a lemon juicer or an orange juice squeezer. That's what this thing looked like. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Ridges, and you put the half orange on there and you twist it. That's what this thing looked like on top. Now, on the bottom, there was a circular light that had a light shining down. And then he said that there was these conduit tubes 3 on either side. There were 6 conduit tubes that came down that had frayed edges. He definitely described these conduit tubes. They were kind of curly as they came down. On either side of these conduit tubes were these prongs that had this kind of like a loop or prong, almost like that 66 case. Here we go again with these prongs again.
Yeah.
So that he saw that as well. Now he said that the next thing that happened is that these prongs, they retracted 90% up into the interior of the craft, but not 100%. They were somewhat exposed. The same time that happened, these conduit tubes, they retracted into the bottom of the craft. Now, the second that happened, there were 2 hatches that opened on either side of the prongs, and these gooseneck lights with a retractable or curved like attachment popped out of each side of the craft itself. At this point, he's thinking, what is going on here? I have got to go and wake up my family. So he runs into the house. He wakes up his wife. He wakes up his 2 children. By now, this large craft is kind of like departing near the backyard. But he could see on the left side, just before this thing started moving toward the back, he could see 2 more of these craft that look identical to the one that he saw, but these were half the size. So we're looking at 75 feet in diameter. 2 more of them. And it looked like they were shining down some type of beam, and they were sucking power off the 500,000 volt power lines and turning them cherry red in color.
Those bastards.
So it's a CE2 case right here.
Yes.
You know, they were making these power lines cherry red in color, like they're sucking power off. Okay, so he goes to the back of the house. He wakes up his wife, wakes up the 2 kids. They opened up the blinds, and they're looking at the backyard now. Now we've got the large craft, and that's in kind of like the second illustration in the series here. It's all, and I got to give credit to Tom Bogan, who I commissioned to do the artwork on this. He's the one that made this all come alive.
It looks so good.
Yep.
Oh
so
my
you've
God.
got the large craft in the center, flanked on either side by the 2 75-foot diameter shaped craft. And this is all in 1972. And they're making those power lines, they're turning those cherry red as well. Now, here's what's interesting. Something really interesting happens next. This large craft, 150 feet in diameter, it's in their backyard. It goes from a dead standstill, and if you look at this illustration where they're looking out the window here, you can see some rolling hills in the background. Those hills are about 24 nautical miles away. According to the primary eyewitness, he said that this thing went from a dead standstill to directly over these hills in the background in less than 1 second. And then 1 second later, it popped back to its original position.
Whoa.
He forgot his chapstick.
And made no sonic boom back in 1972. Who had the technology to do that?
My goodness. Bro. My goodness.
We're not talking about liquid rockets here, guys.
Right.
It's not a plant. It's not Mars.
Nope. So at this point, he is horrified. He is shocked. He can't believe what's going on. He says, you know what? We're out of here. So he gathered his family. They all run to the garage. He piles everyone in. You know, the kids still have their jammies on, and they're barely still asleep. They have pillows, and they run into the truck. This guy, he starts up the engine. He pulls out of the garage and then starts screaming down the road. And the report says that they're going, it actually says they reach 90 miles an hour, and that large craft is starting to chase after them.
Oh my God.
And they're in absolute horror. They're screaming. They're going 90 miles an hour down the road. This thing goes off to the left, then flies above the cab of the pickup truck and goes off to the right, then goes back off to the left. By this time, they're hysterical. They eventually make it to the neighbor's house. They slam on the brakes. They pile out of the car. They start slamming onto the door of the neighbors. The 2 neighbors come out, and just when the neighbors come out of the door, they could see this large craft flying away. So you've got the 4 primary eyewitnesses plus the 2, that's 6. So we've got 6 eyewitnesses saw that large craft depart at a high rate of speed. Multi-eyewitness case. It's a solid case. This was written up in multiple newspaper publications.
Wow. Yeah, I would say that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. I can't even I mean,
Also had to have like the children and the adults also say the same thing. I mean, is that in this case?
They all saw it.
yeah.
Four of the eyewitnesses were adults. Not that we're diminishing the eyewitness accounts of the children, but
Yeah.
4 eyewitnesses saw this. They were chasing after their pickup truck. The references are Sun Herald, May 29th, 1979, UFO Evidence, Volume 2, Number 2, Richard Hall, 2001, which is a really good book. If anyone really wants to get a handle on all these different cases, UFO Evidence by Richard Hall, very good book. Guy did a good job.
Awesome.
yeah.
I'm going to look into that
Hell
for
yeah.
sure. For sure.
I got to do more reading.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit like an important point here too, because we were talking about this with Terry Lovelace on when it comes to kids. Yes, they have very active imaginations and whatnot, but I can't imagine how much stuff kids have seen and told an adult, and they just blew it off.
Right.
Well, they also like remember really intricate detail in some
Right, that's
cases.
right.
That,
Yeah.
Right.
That it goes down to like the relativeness of your lifespan, right?
Uh-huh.
Like if half of your life was spent remembering this one thing, like you probably remember a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's important.
The children should be counted as well. They should not be discounted.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess I mentioned that just because I feel like the common person would say, "Oh well, was it the kids that saw it, or was that honestly, you know whose side I'm on." But
Yes.
yeah, man, that's such a. Again, I will say it again. I keep saying this, but the intricacy of all the stuff, like man,
Yeah, the details are great. I mean,
details.
it's incredible that you can literally go to Chicago, right? In QFOS, right, in Chicago, or the Library of Congress, or right here in Austin, Texas.
We've got quite a few listeners in Chicago, actually.
We do.
Yeah.
That's one of our highest listener areas is in Chicago.
Yeah, so what's up,
So
Chicago?
everybody in Chicago, I mean, is that place still there? Can you still go there?
It's my understanding that the archives have been moved to UIC, and they're a lot less accessible than when I got them, like in 2008, 9, 10 time frame. I don't think they're. I mean, I could just walk in that door. They gave me free reign of the whole thing. I could pull out any case. Spent 4 hours there on a Sunday. Come back the next Sunday, do it all over again. You can't do that anymore. It's
Wow.
not that accessible anymore. So I think that window is closed.
That is so cool.
Wow.
That is so cool.
I kind of am making an analogy in my brain, like this is what you've experienced is kind of like the Vatican of information in a way to us. I mean, to me for sure, because I've never seen any of these. I've never seen any of these stories, and I guarantee you, none of our listeners have either. So
They're obscure. That's why I call it Dark Files, a pictorial history of lost, forgotten, and obscure UFO encounters. They are lost and forgotten. They're gone.
yeah, Dark Files. I love that name, dude.
Yep.
Also, I love the typography at the top.
Yes, right.
The
You gotta have
title-
it stand out.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like definitely like Stranger Things. Also, like the imagery and the illustration is very. It's so realistic, but it also has like a vibe to it. I don't know what it is, but I don't know what to call it. But I love it.
We want to put you there. We want to make you like you're the eyewitness at the scene. That's the goal. So.
Well, you did an amazing job with that.
Yeah,
that's for
seriously.
sure. I mean, so if we're, we went through these cases, we look at all this stuff, we're talking, we notice these patterns of tubes and hoses and headlights and stuff that you would really connect to, possibly being a man-made thing. And then the astronaut story that you told just, man, really got me thinking. I mean, it's one of those things where like we as a taxpayer, man, I mean, we spend billions of dollars on stuff like this, and you never hear about it. And one thing that I love about you is that it's like we have to hold these people accountable, listening to you say things like, like washers that were like thousands of dollars, or the little boxes.
Right.
We bought so many of them, they ended up not even using them. I mean, I guess there has to be a separation between what the government is doing and wherever this other stuff is coming from, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I know what you're saying. I know where you're going.
Right.
Yeah. Like, where's the separation? Is it even the government? Is it
exactly? That's what I'm saying. I mean, obviously, we always talk about, well, the government does this and the government does that, and they don't tell you this and that. But I guarantee you, maybe 90% of people that work in government, probably one, aren't even interested in UFOs, or two, just don't even know about it. Right? It's all need to know, and none of those people need to know anything.
I have a really connecting analogy, and it goes back to the first story that we covered in your book, Michael. The airship. You mentioned smoked-colored glasses.
Yes, smoke. That is specifically mentioned in the case file. Smoke-colored glasses.
Right.
Yes.
So I have a point, but I just kind of want to lead you into this idea that I have. Did sunglasses exist in 18 so and so?
Yeah, I think they had some kind of glasses. Yeah.
Okay, I was hoping you're gonna be like, no, they didn't. I was baiting you into be like, actually, no, I know for a fact that they did not, because I don't know. I was hoping somebody knew.
Yeah, it specifically states smoke-colored glasses, dark-colored glasses.
So for me, even the layman that didn't know that sunglasses existed in the 1800s, for me that seems like an elite status type human. I just keep going back to this overall thought that there's this civilization that lives on this planet that we will never know of, that has access to all this stuff, and that we're seeing these little clues, and that they've just constantly been covered up with. I mean, I guess I'm just repeating a couple of archetypes that we've gone over, but I don't know, I just find it fascinating.
Well, here's the other thing we should think about too. Okay, so think about what happened just prior to all these sightings going on. Something big that happened not too far prior to this that happened in California. Does anything come to mind?
The discovery of the nuclear bomb? Is that new?
No. Back to the mystery airship wave of 1897. What happened prior to 1897 that was big in California?
Gold Rush.
Gold Rush.
Oh,
Yeah. California Gold Rush, 1849. So you could see that if there's an eccentric group of financiers that funded the Sonora Aero Club somewhere in New York, they would have needed a way to get that stuff from the West Coast to the East Coast rapidly.
Yes.
Oh my
gosh.
Dude,
man.
I love this. Let's keep going.
Oh my gosh.
Let's keep digging.
It's all about money. It's all about money.
It is, and gold is a very good form of money.
Like everything in San Francisco is like 5 times more than it should be.
Yeah.
It's all about the gold rush, because they were overcharging for jeans at the time. They were overcharging for gold pans and shovels and pickaxes, and that's where the hotels started. And then they started making building complexes, and it's all about the gold rush. This whole thing's about money.
Yes.
All about money.
Wow.
It's all about gold.
Oh. Man, follow the money, right?
That has been a recurring theme in our podcast for quite a while. Follow the money. It really applies to
everything.
Everything.
It does.
Same thing with this phenomenon itself. It applies to religion. Applies to economy. It applies to so many different things, man.
Right. Yeah.
It just makes it so much more of a reason why all of this stuff has been swept under the rug, is because, that veil, man, we all are living under that veil,
Yep. Money.
Well, I guess we can say what we want to say about Tupac. I know maybe his lifestyle wasn't the most something that we should follow all the time, but he made a point, right? He made a point. He said, it's a setup. Even Tupac knew it's a setup. He was trying to get that across to people. I don't know if got it. But he knew that this is a setup.
Yeah.
He was intelligent as fuck, dude.
That
and
guy is a genius. Yeah,
he had to
genius.
dumb down most of his lyrics so people would understand. I mean, I'm not, dumb down. He was smart, dude.
Yeah, he was pretty smart.
His concepts were.
He definitely was smart.
Shit.
Man.
He's a revolutionary.
Oh, he definitely was, man. I mean, he made a huge impact, not only just in music, but the way that people think about society just in general. I mean, yeah, he was definitely a smart guy. Definitely a smart guy.
He understood the big picture on a massive level. I mean, they talk about how if you're at a fast food joint and your burger is cold, you take it back to the cash register person, right? The person at the cash register. If that doesn't work, you take it to the manager. If that doesn't work, you take it to the franchisee owner. That's what Tupac was doing.
Right.
He was taking it to the franchisee owner. That's what he was doing in his songs.
Yeah.
He got the big picture. He knew what was going on.
Right.
Yes.
He was calling out like hypocrisies within the music industry, like from day one.
Yep. And just the world.
Like,
in
I'm
general.
doing all the fucking work and you're making 5 times the pay. This is not fair. Yeah.
If he lived longer, I only wonder what he could have done, what he could have accomplished if he would have caused a huge revolution. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And it's one of those things where, like, okay, we do have this revolutionary voice. Most people who have something to say usually get assassinated. Mm-hmm. Right? And Tupac, I mean, when you think about it, it's you think about like Kennedy and then you think about Tupac and you don't really make a connection. But whenever you think about it on that level of what people are saying and how they're trying to change the world, it definitely does connect.
That would be a dope remix, dude.
Tupac with Kennedy.
Park the car.
Park the car. Oh man,
It's the only like phrase I could think of.
man, man, this has been absolutely awesome, and it's just, you know, I guess I have one more question for you. I guess well, I have a million questions, but I mean,
I'm small fries, guys. I'm small fries. You know.
I'll go with this one. But
Big
say
fry.
like this last case that we just went over, where the craft is chasing people and
Right.
lighting up these telephone poles and stuff. If we found out, and this could be a reason why we don't, know a lot of this information, right? If we found out that it was man-made,
Yes.
by somebody here, so they blew up these telephone poles and they chased his family down the road, is that considered domestic terrorism?
Good question. Good question.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like there would be lawsuits out the wazoo for like stuff that like, oh, this was you.
You'd have to start the whole legal process
well,
over.
Come on, Boeing, or like.
One thing we can think of, and this is brought out by a friend of mine, I guess we'll leave his name out, but like when there is something going on, they will use the tabloids to paint things over with. Like if something actually happens, they'll put that into the tabloids, which will discredit it, essentially. And so that's design. That's the specific reason why they do that, is to keep people like you and I from looking into this subject.
Yeah.
That's what that's for.
To escape ridicule, and it's such a mind fuck. Like, that's such a CIA thing to do.
Yeah, very much so.
I want that to catch on. Like, so you're gonna we all know this thing's true, but we're gonna like make fun of it so that you sound ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, dude, fuck you. Like, what? Come on. I don't know.
All anyone has to do to prove this to themselves, and I'm not talking about alien, I'm not talking about man-made, I'm just talking about in general. If you look at NICAP.org, go on their website, and then you can do sightings by chronology. They have broken all the cases down to all the dates. from prehistory to current times. All of them are listed in NICAP.org, and you can spend years going through this stuff. But there were so many sightings during the flap of 47, which makes it significant. But even more so, there were even more sightings in 52. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sightings in 52. You just can't say it's not there. I mean, it's a real thing. It's going on.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I had heard you say in an interview that a lot of what's going on happens on Thursdays. Thursday is significant.
We'll save that for next time.
Okay, that's
Bro, there's a reason why we do our podcast on Thursdays.
There's a reason we do podcasts on
We're
Thursdays.
going to miss it because we're not outside.
You guys are good.
That's awesome, man. Well, Michael, before we wrap this up, man, is there anything that, maybe you left out or you just want people to know?
Where can we find your book? How can people buy your book?
The book is on Amazon, and all you have to do is put in Dark Files and my name. It'll pop up. And it's very reasonable. Richard Dolan helped me, format it and everything, and he said that should be the price point. We want to make it affordable to people, and so that's what we've done. So
right, that's great, man.
Richard Dolan's so cool, dude.
He's a cool dude. Yeah,
he's a cool dude.
Oh man!
But Michael Schratt is an even cooler dude.
Yes, man. Yes.
Yeah, man. I'm so glad we met you, man. We didn't get a lot of bro time, but man, we definitely got to experience that whole crew, right? Like Jim Goodall, and I mean, man, that whole crew was such a fun little.
It was. Everybody that was at the conference was just fascinating.
Yeah,
absolutely fascinating.
So props to Lorianne. Just shout out to Lorianne.
Definitely
for putting it all together.
And Jim hooked us up with your contact information.
Sure, yeah.
He stayed the night at my house a few weeks ago when he was on his little tour, and we did a little interview, and we got to talking about you, and he was like, "Yeah, you guys got to have him on your show," and I was like, "Yes, we're gonna reach out immediately." So.
Well, it was a unique conference because it was the last conference before everything fell off the edge of the world.
Yes,
exactly.
Definitely.
There have not been any more UFO conferences since we were at that one.
I know. I'm excited for it to get ramped back up again. I mean, do you have any plans for the future, dealing with maybe future conferences or future appearances or anything like that?
Probably Contact in the Desert 2021 if it goes on.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
We got to go, dude.
Yeah, we have to go to that for sure. Because I know, Gary and them, they were supposed to speak this year at Contact, and they didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
So
we got to go hang out with Bree and them from.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds great. Well. All right, Michael, man, this has been awesome. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we're, super excited that this happened, and we definitely want to have you back on again. Maybe we can get into some of that a little bit more government, secret, space programming type stuff on the next one, man.
Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, this has been great, dude. Hey, we'll talk to you later, all right?
Okay, take care. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, man. Bye. All right, man. So,
it went dead there.
Oh, did it?
No, it recorded.
Oh yeah, you're good. Dude, I mean that was so great. That was so great. I'm so glad
so awesome.
We were able to have him on, and like I said, man, I mean the dude is like. I mean, he's just like an encyclopedia. Well, obviously, I'm sure he had the same stuff up on his screen, but
I don't think he did. I think he has it all by memory,
it's
bro.
all by memory.
Just the sheer knowledge. Like, I'm impressed, and I'm like jealous of that brain.
Yeah, some people have it, some people don't
have
man.
It. I love it. I have just strictly like little. Spurts of inspiration, but like, man, the man's ability to also visualize and describe things and make it happen to where, I mean, look what he did.
He's very good at describing stuff.
Dude.
Like, even before I saw all of this, when I would hear him describe things, I could picture it in my head so well that when I saw this, I was like, that's such a good visual representation of what he described.
I know I probably like fucked it up by saying something wrong, but the Challenger story that he told,
Dude.
I told him, like, you need to go to your nearest coffee shop.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I had chills the whole time, man. Like, he's a great storyteller.
Yeah. Yeah. That
description.
was a point in the show that definitely
I forgot we were on the podcast.
I don't know. Yeah,
I forgot where I was.
I don't know if this is too soon, but like the Challenger, my mind exploded. You know what I'm saying? Can you even imagine being in a space shuttle and it explodes and you're like, fuck, here we go.
I mean, what do you do?
And you're just arcing through the air, dude. And then before you know it, you come back down, you look out the window, you're like, fuck, I'm supposed to be on that. And I'm not on that, and I'm heading towards water.
Dude. Oh, fuck, I'm supposed to be out. So, I can't remember what movie I watched.
Oh my gosh.
But it's about the Challenger. No, it's a TV show. I think it was a Hulu TV show. Fuck,
There's a new Netflix series
Jess knows about it.
the Challenger.
Is it with Hillary Swank?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, that's not the one. It's the one I watched on uh-oh. Don't go to sleep. Okay. Me and Jess, oh shit. I don't know what it's called. Fuck. It's not Away. It's not that.
It's not Away?
No.
Okay.
That's Hillary Swank, right?
I don't know. I always call her the girl with the big mouth.
Yeah.
She's got big teeth. Yeah. I mean, she's cute. She's attractive, for sure.
That could be Anne Hathaway. That could be so many different actors.
Jabba the Hutt. That could be Shamu.
Jar Jar Binks.
Oh,
Pac-Man. Fuck, what was I going to say? Oh, so this dramatization of the Voyager, which that's weird that also Netflix is having their own thing. I'm pretty damn sure Jess would know. I'll ask her later. They make it seem to where there's like this lucky dime that they carry on to each launch, and the person takes the dime out of their pocket. And as they launch, the dime gets lost.
It fell
into and just fucked some shit up.
Yes.
So is that a true story, or is that marketing?
I think that's a true story because I've heard that years ago.
Okay.
Where somebody had the coin,
so that's not
and
new
they
thing.
accidentally dropped it, and it landed next to one of the boosters or something. And as they took off, this coin fell and punctured something.
It could be as simple as like getting in between a little clamp boy.
Yeah.
And it can't move this way, so it can't get rid of this thing, which also can't get rid of that big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, the engineering that goes behind this stuff, I will never understand.
You know, and you think about it, like the engineering.
I built Legos before, so.
The engineering that goes into building a space shuttle or, something like that. There's so many moving parts and just like room for error. It fascinates me that they're even able to do it correctly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like the shuttle is built in different pieces at different stages, and it's like, okay, everything has to be on point. Perfect, right?
Like to the gram or some shit.
But then you look at these craft, these UFOs, these circular little solid piece things, and it's like,
right.
The mechanics, the moving parts behind it don't seem like it would be as tough, but maybe the technology used to move these craft is way past what we're using to launch these, fluid rockets.
Right.
And it's weird. It's weird. It's so like there's so many moving parts in the old stuff, but it's so rudimentary when it comes to science. This new stuff has less moving parts, it seems, but way more advanced when it comes to the science aspect.
Yeah, I love that bell curve though. Like I fucking love that. That makes sense to me, and like it attracts me to push forward in technology. It gives me hope for the future. Like less parts. Like I guess I'm a designer. That's what I guess I do for a living now. But the simpler the better, the more simple the product. Okay, let's bring it back for a second. But the Glock is a perfect example of there's 4 pieces.
Yeah.
And it's just you could throw that thing in mud and it works.
Right.
There's something to be said about simplified technology that's built is ergonomic. a word? No, that's not a very, that doesn't describe it. But yeah, like what is that bell curve? Like it gets so technologically advanced. You see, like if you look at tech from like the 80s, right? We're speaking of the Voyager, like there's so many like little tiny
yeah, exactly. And it's like okay, we're gonna wrap foil on this. Don't fucking puncture it. Do not. Where are your gloves, Jeremy?
Okay. You know how like you get like an IKEA furniture and you will lose one screw? That's why they always put like 2 extra. Imagine that with a fucking rocket ship, dude. You're like, okay, who the fuck has that fucking tiny baby little eensy queensy pooty little screw?
Who has it? Oh, or can you imagine? Can you imagine on almost completion, like you're on completion day and you're up there and you're tightening some stuff, and then like a little washer falls down. You're like, shit.
Fuck, we gotta take the whole thing apart.
You gotta take the whole
It's like dropping a french fry in between your seat and the console, man. You're like,
you can't reach it.
All right, I guess I gotta get a new car. New fucking truck. Also, dude, that fucking, it's a Ford, right? And
that is definitely a Ford that they're driving.
Okay, wait, before I forget. So we're talking about 2 different, and this is kind of a common theme that we've been talking about all night, but there's a common theme, right? There's it seems to be that, okay, let's say human as in earthly humans in our timeline, right, are considered a part of this secret, let's say secret space program, because everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
Let's call, I wish there was a better, like a cooler term.
The badass space program.
The bat ass pays kabocha. So
spas. The soccer spas program.
Soccer spas program.
That's way cooler.
And then there's us. So maybe
and then there's
like do you to go to Burger King. All right. So the left side, right, the spas program, has been afforded this luxury of this advancement in technology from a. This is just all hypothetical. This is just me fucking around.
I assumed as much.
So it's like they've been given this technology and they're like, hey, you can have all this cool shit, bro. Like, just stay on your side of the planet. You got half the planet. Look. Go to Google Earth. Half the planet's water, dude. Just stay on your half.
Yeah.
And then leave everybody on the other half alone. Because we want to see what the other half, with all their land and all their fish and dogs and cats, let's see what they can do. And just leave them to evolve on their own.
Yeah.
And it's like this experiment to where, like, what would happen if we could do both experiments at once? You know, it's not planetary. It's like a dualism.
So I was thinking about this, like, yeah, absolutely. If you say you were part of that civilization, right, that survived with your technology.
Right.
If you were part of that civilization, and then you notice that there's people that weren't involved in that. Yeah, it would be, I mean, humans love experiments. So if you are part of this small group that had this technology, there was something that happened where it wiped most of the people out.
And tribalism, right?
Yeah,
like, hey, dude.
You would wait and see. You would be like, okay, look, we have all this. Let's watch. Let's see. So, like, okay, hold on. This goes even deeper. Hold on. Okay, so at the beginning of time, we wanted to...
Littlefoot walks on screen.
The very first people, we see how they evolve, and they get through these certain changes and aspects of life. And it takes a long, long time. Well, suppose Graham Hancock is right. Maybe there is an advanced civilization that we've already gotten to this peak, and then something happened, right? So now we wipe everything out. We didn't really get to physically see what, like, Cro-Magnon Man and, like, what all those people were doing. So if we were part of this advanced civilization and something happened, but we were still a part of it, we would want to watch the evolution of humanity again.
It's the most fascinating thing ever.
Because we didn't get to see it when it first happened. So if we got a chance to see it the second time around, we'd want to watch it and study how humanity evolves.
Yes. To also, just out of curiosity, but to validate our
what we think is correct in the history books. Yeah.
So dude, those Voyager little capsules are maybe scientists and their families going on a weekend like, hey, maybe the future of archaeology is time travel.
It would make sense,
right? That's fucking fun to think about. Also, like, so you were saying something earlier, like in the earlier evolution, right? Like you have this breakaway, this civilization that's more advanced, and then there's this other thing that's going on half of the world. You're noticing, like, so we're flying over in jets, and they're like, oh, dude, we didn't know there was any humans over there. We didn't even think they could survive. Right. Oh shit, they're surviving, and then that turns into, you know what? This planet is like a little too toxic to what we're used to. Let's go a couple million light years away for a bit, and then come back, and some of you guys will stay here underground because it's safe, and we'll go over here to this safe planet, and then we'll come back, pick you up, give you some bananas, give you some vitamins, some daily total mens.
But then by the time you got back, everybody would be like,
2,000 years later,
are these gods coming from the sky?
Right? Yeah. Dude.
Oh,
we done did it.
Oh man.
Why is that so fun to figure? It's like there's no right answer. That's why it's fun, I think.
Yes.
Because but my brain tells me, you're a little bit closer, bud.
Yep.
And I think, like, just talking through it, like, I've never thought about that whole 5-minute segment ever. That's so fun, dude.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, with Michael on tonight, like I said to you earlier, it's like, I'm okay if a lot of this stuff is man-made. It doesn't upset me.
Yeah.
Some people think that, Michael's just trying to discredit everything. He doesn't believe in aliens or UFOs, and that's not what he's saying at all. I think actually uncovering what is man-made allows us to better understand what isn't man-made,
right?
And that to me makes what isn't man-made so much more fascinating.
So, yes. Yeah, so that's a good point. Like, I feel like maybe some people that have made it this far are thinking like, well, what are they trying to say? Like, there's no aliens?
Yeah.
And like, you might be bummed, but that's not what he's saying or what we're saying.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up.
It's kind of like, so this whole like UFO thing is kind of like a giant game of Guess Who. It's like, does your person wear glasses? And you're like,
yes.
Nope. And you got to flip all the people without glasses. Does your person have a mustache? Nope. Flip all the people without mustaches. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And
does your person have an asshole?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Shit, I got to leave all my people up now.
Gotta flip them back up.
And it's kind of one of those situations to where, like, say in the game of Guess Who, your card had antennas, right? But
my antennas are on my nipples.
But I
tape them down.
But the other person's card doesn't have anything to do with antennas.
Right. So why would you ask?
To ask, does your person have antennas?
Right.
Because you don't even know it exists yet.
You don't even know.
You don't know the question to ask.
Yeah.
How can you ask the right question when you don't even realize that that's a possibility?
Shout out to Melinda and Lorianne for that. They said that fun from the beginning.
Yep.
They were like, hey, so you guys are new to podcasting, cool. This is literally not like a year ago, bro.
Yeah.
A year ago. We're so new to this. By the way, anybody new listening, we're so new to this. We're not even a year in.
Right.
We're learning so much shit. Anyway,
we've been into UFOs since we were kids, but the learning actual shit is like, very new.
Yeah. But our kind of our mentors really said that from the beginning, like, know the question. If you do talk to somebody that knows some shit, make sure you fucking know the right questions to ask, because they're not just gonna give it to you.
Yeah. Do you think aliens are real? Hey. So Spas.
Hey.
Hey. Oh man.
What kind of alien you think I am?
And I'm really excited because I feel like now, moving forward, like, I'm starting to understand what questions maybe to ask.
I'm not
you
there.
know?
I know you are. I just piggyback off of your ass, dude. Well, that sounded sexual.
Hey, no piggies in my ass. You keep your piggy in a blanket over there, dude.
But yeah, I still feel like I'm just so clueless, and I try to listen as much as possible. I think I went on one kind of rant tonight that at the end I was like, I said too many words. but what I want to do is listen more, and I feel like, yeah, you're definitely more like getting to understand what questions to ask, like that are important to get more information out.
Right.
I do a lot of speculation. Like, what if the thing was green? We know, which is fun.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of like what makes this work. I mean, we obviously have differences. You like doing shows with just me and you.
I like a little bit of wine.
I enjoy the shows where we have guests.
Yeah.
And it's because, like, I'm learning so much. Like, every time we have a guest, and you like guests too, right? But you have a lot of fun when it's just me and you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's definitely a balance, which I think every good show should have. Not necessarily a opposite, because that would, I think, I'm not talking shit about the podcasters that we met, but there was like a flip side. Like, there was like the skeptic and the
believer.
Yeah. I mean, those were cool fucking dudes, but
yeah, definitely.
That's not us. There's definitely like a in between area, but yeah, I think that's what makes this show fun, isn't it?
But it's nice though, because even though like I may be learning the questions to ask, to have the speculation on the other side motivates the brain to like, oh shit, I should ask this question on top of this, because it's taking it a step further. And that's what's good about just me and you shows, is that we do that,
So dude, we need another episode where we need another movie episode. I won't just plug Ryan Sprague again, but he had a great episode where they do movie reviews. Really good.
Ours were terrible,
dude. Ours are so bad, bro.
We didn't even comment. We just like watched the movie and we were like, "That's funny." We didn't even say.
Like most of it's like.
Because we did Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and we're like,
the most boring fucking episode. Wasn't that like our 50th episode or some shit? And then I'm like listening to Ryan's yesterday. I'm like, oh my god, that was a great episode. Like they broke it down like very intellectually. Also, his guest, I should know his name, but he sounds like Louis C.K.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not talking shit. I'm just saying, like, wait, who's this again?
Yeah.
Anyway, they're both hilarious. That are the most recent episode. They talk about The Arrival with Charlie Sheen.
Oh yeah.
And Arrival with Hot Chick.
Yes. The Arrival with Charlie Sheen and Arrival with Hot Chick.
It's
yes.
But anyway, we should maybe not do movie reviews. Maybe just try it. Maybe do it better.
Maybe we should take Ryan Sprague's guest and have him movie review with us. It'd be better.
What if like we have Ryan Sprague and his guest on, and then we just don't say anything?
We're just quiet.
No, but like it would be the same thing, because we would be like, oh, that was cool.
That was cool. We're like, hey, can you guys tone it down? We're trying to watch the movie.
Could you guys fucking shut up?
Hey, damn it, I missed the best part. I gotta rewind it. Hold on, we'll talk about this in a second.
Shut up.
Oh man, Ryan's guest, come on now.
I feel bad. Hold on, I'm gonna look.
That's so funny.
I just looked at it. Also, I just updated my phone, so everything's different.
Oh, that's always good, right?
Yeah. So if I'm trying to search for stuff, it's no way.
It's like not saved. Yeah. Don't even worry about it.
If you guys comment on our YouTube the video or our Facebook group and let us know, because it would take too much long time. All right, I gotta stop drinking wine.
Oh man,
Too long time. Save much time. Talk
big.
Less. Big time save.
Oh man. Oh, well, this was good, man. This was definitely good.
That's fun.
Guys, don't forget to go check out Phoenix Shaving at phoenixshaving.com. They got all your goody good smells.
Big smell good.
Big good smells at Shaving Phoenix.
Girls smell good.
Go check them out. They are coming out with new fall scents. So, if your girl loves pumpkin spice lattes, go and get the pumpkin spice soap. And then she'll love you as much as she loves pumpkin spice lattes. All right? And also, Redeemer Small Batch. Don't forget to go check them out. Good news, everybody. If you're in a state where it's all like weird and stuff, you're still able to buy the pre-rolls of the CB Doobies at least till February 1st until they get back into it again. You can go check them out. And right now, if you go and do it, you get 0 down, 0 APR if you use the code UFO Garage 15. Get 15% off of your total purchase, man. What do you think?
I'll tell you what. Shit. Hey, are you driving a car? Fuck it. Come on down. I'll give you the damn car. Just fucking buy it, okay?
All
We
right.
got 0 down, 0 financing, 0. Did I say 0 down?
0 down. 0 APR.
It took all of my power to not interrupt Michael
When the Ford came up.
when the Ford illustration of the truck.
Hey, Michael, more importantly, we want to know, do you have
shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Shut up. Is that?
Do you have any idea, was it in the report at all on this UFO case on how much APR and how much they put down on that Ford that he's driving 90 miles an hour?
I mean, it had a sunroof or no?
Oh my gosh, dude. Well, yeah, man. This was very good. I had a great time.
It was a good time.
Hell yeah. Well,
Hey, bro.
This was another episode of UFO Garage. Talk to you next time. Peace.